I just shot somebody on my front porch.
On one cold and rainy night, 19-year-old Renisha McBride crashed her car on a Michigan street before hazily pulling herself from the wreck to look for help. Renisha was dealing with a concussion and a severe injury to her hand. But that wasn't all, and more would be uncovered about her mental state later. Despite this, Renisha made her way towards a nearby house and began banging on their door. Unfortunately, when the owner of the house finally opened the door, Renisha found herself facing the end of a shotgun and the end of her life. On November the 2nd, 2013, the Dearborn Heights Police Department received a 911 call just after 4:30 a.m. from a man named Theodore Wafer.
I just shot somebody on my front porch with a shotgun, banging on my door.
After ensuring that Theodore wasn't a threat, the police questioned him on the night's events. Look at this.
What happened here?
Consistent knocking on the door, and I'm trying to look through the windows, but every time I look through the windows in the door, it's banging somewhere else, so I open up the door, kind of like, who is this? And the gun discharged. I didn't know there was a round in there. I don't get it. Who's knocking on your door at 4:30 in the morning? Bang, bang, bang.
While Theodore may have claimed the whole incident was just a terrible accident, certain aspects of his story just weren't adding up, and detectives were determined to discover if they may actually be dealing with a cold-blooded killer.
Homeowner says there was somebody pounding on the door. He opened the door, like to say who the heck's out here, and his gun discharged and shot this black female in the head. She's rescue isn't here yet, but
according to the officers on the scene, a gunshot wound so severely damaged Renisha's head above her jaw that she was pronounced dead on arrival. Theodore, still in a state of shock, was placed into a police cruiser while the scene was secured and documented.
Not really, I mean...
what's that, sir?
I said that, I don't know,
Sit tight a minute. See what we can figure out here.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
When Theodore first woke up to Renisha banging on his door, he may have believed that there was potentially a dangerous force trying to get into his home. His body then may have gotten into fight or flight and tried to prepare for a potential threat by releasing adrenaline. This heightened state doesn't last for very long, and now that he's in a police cruiser, there's no possible threat against him anymore. With enough cursory information gathered, the police bring Theodore back to the station for questioning. And it isn't long before the cracks in his story begin to show.
Well, why don't we just start out by, I know you've told officers at the scene, but I need you to tell me now. Just give me the scenario of what happened tonight, in your own words.
Well, I don't really know how these proceedings work. I mean, am I being charged?
No. No, sir.
Should I have a lawyer present?
That would be entirely up to you.
I mean, this is a very serious matter. What just happened, I believe.
Well, it is a serious matter. There's a young woman that's laying in report. We have to do a thorough investigation, and we have.
Am I allowed back into my home now? I mean,
when the officers are done with the scene processing and when the ME removes the body, yes.
See, this is
So.
Theodore is very nervous, and he could be heard asking if he needs a lawyer present. If he did want a lawyer, this was an ineffective attempt at invoking his Miranda rights, as a request for an attorney must be clear and unequivocal. The officer is also somewhat being quite manipulative here, as he suggests that talking to him is no different to talking to the officers on the scene. While that might make sense at first, this is not the case. The primary job of the first responders is to secure the scene and gather basic information during the interrogation. However, the detective will be probing much deeper and gathering information about Theodore's possible guilt. Currently, Theodore appears to be looking at the officer as a neutral party who can offer him support and guidance. However, it's important to remember the detective's ultimate goal in an interrogation is to secure a confession.
You made a statement to the guys at the scene.
Yeah, I heard noises. And it startled me, what these noises were. These banging, prying noises. First on the side of the house, and then front of the house, back to the side of the house, and front of the house.
Given the time of day, he may have assumed the person had bad intentions, especially since Dearborn Heights is known for its high crime rate, the average resident having a 1 in 55 chance of being a victim of a violent or property crime. To compare, the average violent crime rate in 2021 in the United States hovered around 400 cases per 100,000 of the population. Let's watch.
I'm looking out the peephole, I can't see this person, I can't see that, what's going on inside. Every time I look out one door, the noise is going to another one, or the other side of the house.
So, at this point, are you getting frightened? Is your heart racing? What's going on?
Yes, I have no idea what's happening. It was getting louder. I thought at any time somebody was coming through the door or the window. It was getting violent.
Where did you
persistent?
Okay.
Especially on the front door. Very persistent.
Theodore specifically states that he thought someone was going to come in through his window or door. This further displays his belief that there was an immediate threat to him that would kind of justify Renisha's shooting. The defensive tone Theodore takes is reflected in his body language. His arms crossed in front of his chest. He's creating a barrier between himself and the detective. As the ramifications of his actions become more and more apparent, Theodore becomes insistent on defending his choices.
How were you holding the gun when it discharged? I mean, tell me.
With both hands.
I mean, do you have it raised? Do you have it?
No, it's a pistol grip, so you just have to lift it up. So open the door with one hand, and when I placed my other hand, just like that she went off. I didn't expect it.
Theodore may be trying to lessen his responsibility in Renisha's death by removing himself from the action, saying it went off versus I pulled the trigger, puts distance between himself and the action, and blames a gun rather than Theodore himself.
Okay, how high were you holding the gun when it went off?
Waist, and it was on an angle. I was, as far as I can remember.
So do you think that when you were holding the gun that it was on an angle like this? Could it have been like this?
If I'm opening the door, I have it. If I open the door,
okay,
that quick. It's a pistol grip.
Here, the first cracks in Theodore's story begin to show. He claims to have been holding the gun at waist height. However, when you take both Theodore's height and Renisha's height into consideration, he would have had to have been holding the gun at chest height, pointing straight out in order to shoot Renisha in the head. This discussion about gun placement is vital for the case. Holding the gun at his waist could mean that he was just reacting to the potential threat, and more likely it really was an accident, while holding it higher at his chest height means that he could have been consciously aiming, possibly with the intention to shoot. Based on what the detective has seen, he knows that Theodore can't be telling the truth about the way he's holding the gun. While it's entirely possible that Theodore is being deceptive in order to make the shooting seem more accidental, you could say it's not unusual for individuals who are involved in a traumatic event to distinctly remember some parts while other parts are fuzzy. This is one of the reasons why eyewitness reports are never as accurate as we think they should be. According to Michigan's Castle Doctrine, you're allowed to use deadly force on someone who's breaking into your home if it's necessary to prevent great bodily harm to yourself. Based on Theodore's own account of the night, by the time he grabbed his shotgun and decided he'd had enough, he wasn't in any immediate objective danger. This, alongside with the fact that he opened the door up to the danger with the intention of dealing with it, could potentially negate the Castle Doctrine as a valid defense.
I don't even know. I did not look at the body. I didn't stand over it and see where the wound was. I immediately put down the weapon right there on the hallway or, the entry to the front door and looked for my phone. First called here, Dearborn Heights. We're talking boom.
As he prepares to wrap up the interview, the detective brings someone else in to help ask one final question.
Where do we take his shotgun, shell casing?
So we took your Mossberg. There was a spent shell casing in the shotgun, and you had your green shotgun case. So we just tucked it in that and took the gun with it. There was one shell casing, so there was just one in it all the time, or what?
Yes, like I was just trying to explain, I couldn't remember if there was one in it or not. I kept my shelves in a separate closet, so I got a little paranoid a few weeks back, got paintballed, so maybe that's when I loaded it, put it in. I mean, I don't think I mentioned that to you, but I mean, that's what I put one in there or something like that. But I did not realize there was one in there.
Following Theodore's interview, the police spent quite some time digging through every aspect of the case to make sure there was no crucial detail left out. During this investigation, they found out some intriguing details regarding the hours leading up to Renisha's death. According to police records, a 911 call was placed just before 1 a.m. to report a no-injury accident, where a woman who had been driving under the influence had been speeding down the street and struck a parked car. Although the woman driving had clearly been disoriented and possibly confused when she got out of the car, she had left on foot and wandered away from the scene of the crime. Police didn't arrive on scene until they received a call stating that the driver had come back to the scene. Unfortunately, by the time the cops and EMS responded, she was already gone. Again, this driver was Renisha McBride, and had anybody been able to stop her from wandering off in her delirious and drunken state, she may never have ended up on Theodore's front porch. On the flip side, some say Renisha would have never ended up on Theodore's porch if she hadn't been drinking and driving. Would that be victim blaming? Let me know your thoughts. You will notice that there was a 3-hour difference between the time that the 911 call was placed about the car accident around 1 a.m. and Theodore's call to 911 at 4:30 a.m. To this day, it's unclear where Renisha was during this period of time, but her family believes she was disoriented from a head injury and seeking help. Theodore eventually received charges for murder in the second degree in manslaughter, as well as a felony firearm charge. While Theodore may have claimed that his gun accidentally misfired during his initial interview, this claim actually changed by the time he got to court. Instead, he and his lawyer were insisting that Theodore intentionally fired out of self-defense because he was scared that Renisha was trying to break in. Despite Michigan's castle doctrine, the judge ultimately ruled that nothing Renisha did was intense enough to justify Theodore being legitimately scared for his life. In the end, Theodore was found guilty on all charges on September 3rd, 2014, and received 15 to 30 years for his second-degree murder charge, 7 to 15 years for the manslaughter, and finally, 2-year sentence for the felony firearm charge. All of these sentences served concurrently. While Michigan may not have the death penalty, Theodore's lawyer argued that the judge had basically given then 55-year-old man a death sentence, as he's likely to spend the rest of his days paying for his actions. Just when it seemed that Theodore's case was officially put to rest, he made an appeal in 2015 to overturn his conviction. To the surprise of many, the Michigan Supreme Court heard Theodore's case and actually vacated his manslaughter conviction. In Michigan, the second-degree murder statute requires that the defendant acted with malice, whereas the manslaughter charge implies that the defendant didn't. Seeing the contradictions in these convictions, the court determined that having both convictions was a violation of Theodore's rights. One of his convictions vacated, there was a slight chance that Theodore come out of this with a shorter sentence. However, at his resentencing on June 22, 2022, the judge stated that there were strong reasons for Theodore's original sentencing and gave him 15 to 30 years for second-degree murder. While he may no longer have the manslaughter conviction, ultimately, Theodore will serve the same amount of time behind bars. Thanks for joining me here on Crime Lab. Don't forget to subscribe, it's free. It keeps you up to date with all my future videos. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.